If you're a man over 60, I want you to stop whatever you're doing and listen carefully. The reason you're waking up 3, 4, even 5 times a night to urinate is not because you're old, and it's not because your prostate has betrayed you. The truth is far more shocking. The real enemy of your prostate is on your plate right now. It's the everyday foods you believe are normal, harmless, maybe even healthy. Foods silently inflaming your prostate, choking your circulation, and stealing your sleep, your confidence, and your ability to live like the man you once were. And I know what you might be thinking. You take supplements. You walk. You try to eat reasonably well. So why is your urine stream getting weaker? Why does it burn? Why do you feel pressure in your lower abdomen? Why can't you make it through the night without stumbling to the bathroom in the dark? Here is the paradox every man must face. Even when you do everything right, the foods you think are safe may be silently working against you. But if you stay with me, in the next 24 hours, you will know exactly what to remove, what to replace, and how to start taking back control. My name is Dr. Mohit Khera, men's health and urology specialist for more than 30 years. Before we dive into the 3 real enemies hiding in your daily diet, I encourage you to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another message that could change your health and your future. And let me know you're here with me. Type 1 in the comments if you're ready to take back control of your prostate health, or 0 if you feel unsure and want more clarity. Now, let's talk about the first hidden enemy. 1. Enemy number 1. Processed and red meats. You may not realize it, but one of the most damaging things you put into your body is something you've probably eaten since childhood, something you may even look forward to every single morning. Bacon sizzling in the pan, a juicy burger on the grill, a stack of deli meat in a sandwich. It feels comforting, familiar, almost like a reward. But here is the truth most men never hear until it's too late. These foods may be slowly suffocating your prostate from the inside out. You don't feel it overnight. You don't wake up one morning and think, I'm damaging myself. It happens quietly, slowly, silently. One breakfast at a time, one rushed lunch, one weekend barbecue. And then, suddenly, you're standing in the bathroom at 3 in the morning, waiting for a weak stream to start, wondering what went wrong. Processed and red meats are loaded with compounds your body struggles to handle. Heavy saturated fats that thicken and stiffen your blood vessels, chemical preservatives that trigger inflammation, and burned char from grilling that releases toxic molecules your body cannot process without a price, and that price is circulation. Without strong circulation, the delicate network of vessels surrounding your prostate becomes inflamed, swollen, and congested. You may not see it, but your body feels it. That heaviness in your pelvis, that uncomfortable pressure, the feeling that you can never fully empty your bladder no matter how long you stand there, the quiet frustration that follows you into the night and into your relationships. It wears on a man in ways he rarely speaks aloud. So many men tell me they feel embarrassed, weak, or broken. They say they used to feel strong and powerful, and now they feel like a different person. But the truth is, there is nothing weak about you. You are not broken. You are simply fighting a battle you were never told was happening. These foods, marketed as normal, as masculine, as part of tradition, are working against your body, not for it. They add strain to your cardiovascular system, disrupt hormones, contribute to abdominal fat that presses directly on your prostate, and ignite inflammation that spreads like a slow fire through your lower abdomen. And the heartbreaking part is that most men do not connect the dots until the symptoms become impossible to ignore. Imagine waking up with a strong, steady stream again. Imagine sleeping through the entire night without interruption. Imagine intimacy returning without worry or hesitation. That is not a fantasy. It is what happens when inflammation fades, when blood flow returns, and when your prostate is finally given room to heal. And that healing begins not with a pill or a surgery, but with a choice, reducing processed meats and replacing them with foods that support, rather than suffocate, your body. We are not talking about giving up everything you enjoy. We are talking about shifting from daily consumption to occasional moments, choosing fish rich in omega-3, beans, lentils, or lean poultry more often, and surrounding your meals with color instead of beige. Your prostate is waiting for relief, and the moment you give it, your whole life begins to change. Because if this is what just one category of food can do to your prostate, wait until you hear what the second enemy is doing to your metabolism and your hormones every single day. It's even more dangerous, and almost every man consumes it without thinking. Let's talk about enemy number 2. 2. Enemy number 2. Sugary drinks and refined carbs. There is something far more dangerous to your prostate than most men ever realize, and it doesn't look threatening at all. In fact, it often comes with a smile, a moment of pleasure, a quick burst of energy. It's the cold soda you reach for at lunch, the sweet tea you sip on a hot afternoon, the fruit juice you think is healthy, the pastries, cookies, white bread, pasta, and rice that feel comforting and familiar. But here is the truth most men never hear. These foods are silently reshaping your body from the inside out, and the target they hit hardest is your metabolism, your circulation, and ultimately, your prostate. Every time you drink a sugary beverage or eat refined carbohydrates, your blood sugar spikes like a roller coaster climbing straight upward. Your body panics and releases insulin to bring that sugar down. But when this happens day after day, year after year, your cells begin to resist insulin, forcing your body to work harder and harder. This state, called insulin resistance, is the silent trigger most men ignore until the consequences become impossible to escape. It spreads inflammation through every system in your body. It encourages fat to accumulate around your abdomen. It weakens blood vessels, especially those responsible for delivering oxygen and nutrients to the pelvic region. And it slowly, steadily disrupts your hormone balance, reducing testosterone and increasing estrogen. And that is when symptoms begin to appear like storm clouds forming across the horizon. You notice that your energy is not what it used to be. Your mornings feel heavy. Your urine stream grows weaker. You begin to wake at night more often, forced from sleep by urgency you cannot control. You feel pressure in your lower abdomen that wasn't there before. And perhaps the hardest part, you feel changes in your confidence and performance during intimacy. And you start to wonder if something is wrong with you. The truth is not that you are failing. The truth is that sugar is quietly stealing control of your body. This is not just about dessert or treats. Liquid sugar is the most powerful weapon working against your prostate because it enters your bloodstream instantly. It inflames your arteries. It damages the lining of your blood vessels. It starves your prostate of the circulation it needs to heal and function. And because refined carbohydrates digest almost as fast as sugar, they continue the cycle long after the drink or snack is gone. The body becomes stuck in a metabolic battle it cannot win, and you are the one who pays the price. But here is the part that should give you hope. When men remove sugary drinks and reduce refined carbohydrates, the body responds faster than almost any other change. Within days, inflammation falls, the bladder calms. Nighttime bathroom trips begin to decrease, energy returns, and the eyes of the men I treat always tell the story first. They look brighter, more alive, more confident. Imagine what your life could feel like if you took control of this enemy starting today. The freedom of sleeping through the night, the relief of a stronger stream, the confidence of feeling steady and powerful again. And as powerful as sugar's impact is, it's not the most dangerous threat to your prostate, because the third enemy strikes when your body is most vulnerable and it attacks you while you sleep. Let's talk about enemy number 3. 3. Enemy number 3. High-salt, ultra-processed foods. There is a silent enemy attacking your prostate at the very moment you should be resting, recovering, and healing. It doesn't strike when you're awake and aware. It waits until your guard is down, until the lights are off, until your body is trying to restore itself through deep sleep. And that enemy is hidden in the late-night meals, salty snacks, frozen dinners, canned soups, fast food, and instant convenience foods that so many men reach for at the end of a long day. They feel easy. They feel harmless. They feel like the simplest solution when you're tired and don't want to cook. But every time you eat them, especially at night, they set off a chain reaction that can turn your nights into a battlefield. Salt is not just a seasoning. It is a force that pulls water into your bloodstream and forces your kidneys to work harder to remove it. When you eat high-salt, ultra-processed foods in the evening, Your body spends the entire night trying to eliminate excess fluid. Your bladder fills quickly and aggressively, and if your prostate is already swollen or inflamed, the outlet from your bladder becomes narrow, like a kinked hose. You wake up with urgency, stumble through the darkness, and stand there waiting for a weak and frustrating stream, only to return to bed and repeat the cycle hours later. Night after night, the rhythm becomes familiar. Wake up, bathroom, back to bed, wake again, exhaustion. You start to dread bedtime because you know exactly what's coming. And here is the painful part many men never speak about. Poor sleep steals more than rest. It steals your patience, your clarity, your strength, and your sense of control. It eats away at your confidence. It affects your relationships. It makes every day feel heavier than the one before. And yet, most men think this is simply aging, something unavoidable, something they must endure. But the truth is far more hopeful. The problem is not your age. The problem is inflammation and congestion driven by food choices your body cannot manage, especially at night. Ultra-processed foods not only drown your system in salt, they also lack the fiber your body needs to keep digestion moving. Without enough fiber, constipation builds up inside the intestines, and when the colon becomes full, it presses directly against the bladder and prostate, creating pressure you can feel. The discomfort, the difficulty starting urination, the sensation of never fully emptying. These are not random symptoms, they are signals. Your body is trying to tell you something. Give me relief, give me space to heal. But here is the most powerful truth of all. When men reduce evening salt, remove processed convenience foods, and shift their largest meal earlier in the day, change happens quickly. Sleep improves. Nighttime urination decreases, energy returns, the body stops fighting itself. And the quiet suffering that so many men carry begins to lift, replaced by something they haven't felt in years: control. Imagine a night where you sleep straight through. Imagine waking in the morning clear-headed instead of exhausted and defeated. Imagine feeling proud of your body instead of frustrated by it. That transformation begins the moment you choose real food over convenience. And if these three enemies can create this much damage, what they do together inside your body is even more shocking. Because the real danger is not just the foods themselves, but what they cause deep beneath the surface, where you cannot see it happening. Let's talk about what these foods are actually doing inside your body. 4. What these foods are doing inside your body. Most men never stop to ask what is actually happening inside their bodies when these foods are consumed day after day. You see the symptoms, you feel the discomfort, but the real damage is happening long before the first nighttime bathroom trip, long before the stream begins to weaken, long before you start waking up exhausted and wondering what changed. The truth is shocking. These foods are triggering a silent storm inside you, reshaping your internal environment in ways that slowly rob your prostate, your circulation, and your hormone balance of their strength and stability. Inside your body, inflammation becomes the dominant force. It doesn't roar loudly like an injury or illness you can point to. It simmers quietly, like a fire burning under the floorboards of a house, unnoticed until the structure begins to collapse. Every bite of processed meats adds fuel to that fire. Every sugary drink pours gasoline on top of it. Every salty, ultra-processed meal tightens the pressure cooker even further. Your blood vessels narrow, your tissues swell, your pelvic nerves become irritated and hypersensitive. Blood flow to the prostate, bladder, and pelvic floor becomes restricted, like trying to water a garden through a hose that's being squeezed shut. And without healthy blood flow, nothing can repair itself. The prostate becomes congested, swollen, and inflamed, trapped in a cycle it cannot escape without your intervention. Your bladder becomes overactive and unstable, constantly signaling danger, constantly reminding you that something is wrong. Hormones shift out of balance, testosterone declines, stress hormones rise, and vitality fades. And as inflammation spreads, your pelvic region becomes a battlefield where every function, every sensation, every attempt to rest or sleep becomes harder and more exhausting. No man deserves to live in that kind of silent war. But the most heartbreaking part is how many men blame themselves. They think they're broken. They think they're weak. They think they're losing who they used to be. They never realize the truth. Their body is not failing them. It is defending itself, fighting with everything it has against a daily assault that no one ever warned them about. These foods aren't just meals or habits, they are signals. They tell your body to brace for inflammation, to tighten blood vessels, to hold onto fluid, to disrupt hormones, to activate emergency mode long after the meal is finished. This is why symptoms don't appear overnight. They build, layer by layer, until finally the body can no longer compensate. Imagine what could happen if that internal storm finally began to calm. If circulation returned. If pressure lifted. If inflammation faded like a storm cloud drifting away. Imagine waking up one morning with a sense of ease, clarity, and space inside your body again. Healing begins when the environment inside you changes. And the extraordinary truth is that the body responds faster than most men expect once the triggers are removed. Because now that you understand what is happening inside your body, the next question is critical. How does your body try to warn you before things get worse? And are you recognizing those signals in time? Let's look at the warning signs you must never ignore. 5. How your body sends warning signals. Common prostate symptoms. There is a moment every man remembers, even if he never says it out loud. The first time he stands over the toilet and realizes something has changed. The stream that used to be strong and steady is now weak and hesitant. He waits longer than he ever has before anything begins to flow. He feels pressure he can't explain. And for the first time, a quiet fear settles into his chest. That moment is not random, and it is not just age creeping in. It is your body sending a warning, a message spoken not in words, but in symptoms that become harder and harder to ignore. Your body speaks long before doctors do. It whispers first, getting up once in the night, then twice, then 3 or 4 times, interrupting sleep until exhaustion becomes a constant companion. The bed becomes a place of broken rest rather than restoration. The bathroom light becomes a familiar companion in the dark. You finish urinating, and yet you still feel like something is left behind, as if your bladder refuses to let you go. You return to bed only to lie awake, waiting for the next urgent signal that forces you to rise again. And as days pass, mornings become heavier, your mind feels foggy, energy slips through your fingers, and tasks that once felt easy now demand effort. Some men begin to avoid long drives or outdoor trips because they fear not finding a restroom in time. Others withdraw quietly in intimacy, worried that the strength they once knew is slipping away. The frustration turns inward, eating at confidence and pride, until even sitting at a dinner table or watching a game can feel overshadowed by a silent anxiety few people ever talk about. It is not just the physical discomfort that hurts. It is the emotional weight, the embarrassment, the helplessness, the fear of losing control over your own body. But here is the truth that most men never hear. These symptoms are not signs of weakness, failure, or inevitability. They are signals of inflammation, circulation problems, hormonal imbalance, and pressure inside your pelvic region. They are your body asking for help long before the damage becomes irreversible. Your prostate is not the enemy. It is communicating. It is trying to survive under conditions it was never designed to withstand. And every trip to the bathroom, every interrupted night, every moment of frustration is a message that something must change. The worst thing any man can do is ignore these signs and tell himself it's just what happens with age. Because the longer these symptoms persist, the more deeply inflammation settles in and the harder the body must fight to protect itself. But the most hopeful truth is this. When you recognize these symptoms for what they are, you can begin to reverse them. And change often begins far sooner than you expect, because the body wants to heal the moment the burden is lifted. So the question becomes, what is the first step? How do you break the cycle, calm the storm, and begin this healing process in a way that is realistic and sustainable? The answer is simpler and more powerful than most men ever imagine. Let's talk about the small changes that create big results. 6. Small changes, big results. Why consistency heals the prostate. There is something every man must understand before anything can change. The difference between the men who regain control of their prostate health and the men who continue to struggle is rarely a matter of luck, genetics, or access to medical treatments. It comes down to something far simpler and far more powerful: Small decisions repeated consistently. And the shocking truth is this: the body can respond dramatically to even the smallest improvements when they are done with intention. Most men think they need dramatic action, a miracle supplement, or a complete overhaul of their diet to see results. But the men who transform their health are the ones who realize that small steps, taken steadily, can shift the entire direction of their life. Think about how long it took for the problems to appear. They didn't show up overnight. They arrived slowly, quietly, in tiny increments, building year after year until they became impossible to ignore. The same is true of healing. The most meaningful improvements do not come from extreme changes you cannot maintain. They come from choosing one thing to improve and doing it long enough for your body to feel the difference. That is how inflammation begins to fade. That is how circulation improves. That is how pressure inside the pelvis begins to lift and how sleep becomes deeper and more restorative again. I have seen men completely change their nights by making one choice: removing sugary drinks and replacing them with water or unsweetened tea. Within days, urgency softens, the bladder calms, and nighttime trips begin to decrease. I have seen men replace processed meats with fish twice a week and report feeling lighter, clearer, and more energetic within 3 weeks. I have watched men shift their largest meal to earlier in the day and sleep through the night for the first time in years. These victories are not genetic miracles. They are results born from consistency. And there is something deeply emotional and deeply human about this process. When a man begins to feel improvement, when he realizes he has the power to influence his own health, it changes more than his body. It changes his identity. He begins to stand taller. He speaks with more certainty. He looks in the mirror and sees strength instead of decline. He begins to hope again. No pill can replace that feeling. No doctor can prescribe that transformation. It is earned, moment by moment, decision by decision. The beauty of this journey is that you don't need to overhaul your life all at once. You just need to start. Cut one harmful food, add one healing habit, drink water earlier in the day, make dinner lighter, move your body every morning, eat more fiber. These choices stack like bricks, building a foundation that restores everything age tried to take away. So ask yourself, what is one thing you can change today? Not next week, not someday, today. Because one change opens the door to another. And before you realize it, you are no longer fighting against your body, you are working with it. And if one simple change can create that much impact, imagine what happens when you address a hidden factor most men never consider, one that quietly intensifies prostate pressure more than almost anything else. It's something rarely discussed, but it plays a powerful role in your symptoms every single day. Let's talk about it now. 7. The hidden factor. Most men ignore. Constipation and pelvic pressure. Most men never imagine that something as ordinary, as overlooked, as quietly embarrassing as constipation could be one of the most powerful forces worsening their prostate symptoms. Yet the truth is staggering. Constipation can place more physical pressure on the prostate and bladder than almost any food you eat or habit you follow. And the most shocking part is that many men live with it for years without realizing how deeply it is affecting their body. They think it's just a minor inconvenience, something to shrug off, something too small to matter, but nothing could be further from the truth. When the bowels are slow, when waste builds up in the intestines, the colon expands like a balloon filling with air. And because the colon sits directly behind the bladder and directly on top of the prostate, that expanding pressure acts like a heavy weight pressing down on the most sensitive structures in the pelvis. It compresses the bladder, making it feel full even when it's not. It narrows the channel through which urine must pass. It irritates the nerves that control the pelvic floor. And suddenly, a man who once urinated easily can hardly begin the flow. He stands there waiting, pushing, frustrated, feeling like his body is betraying him. Many men describe it as carrying a heavy stone inside their lower abdomen. Others say it feels like a constant tightness, an internal pressure they can never relieve. They don't realize that every day without enough fiber, without enough hydration, without enough natural movement, that internal pressure grows stronger. And the prostate, already inflamed from years of dietary strain, becomes trapped in a tightening vice it can no longer escape. Nighttime urination multiplies, pelvic discomfort increases, the lower back tenses, energy drains, sleep becomes broken, and the emotional toll deepens quietly, invisibly. Constipation is not just about difficulty using the restroom. It is a chain reaction that affects hormones, circulation, inflammation, and nerve function. It is a burden your organs must carry every hour of the day. And the cruel irony is that most men never tell anyone about it. They feel embarrassed. They think it's too small to mention. They believe they should just deal with it privately. But if there is one thing I want you to understand, it is this. Constipation is not a small issue. It is a silent force holding your prostate hostage. Yet there is hope, because this is one of the most reversible problems in men's health. When men begin increasing fiber from vegetables, beans, whole grains, nuts, seeds, and fruit, when they hydrate earlier in the day instead of late at night, when they add gentle daily movement or even a simple walk each morning, something extraordinary begins to happen. The pressure lifts, the bladder relaxes, urinary flow becomes smoother, nighttime interruptions fade, the body begins to exhale. There is a look I see often in my patients when this shift occurs. Surprise, relief, disbelief that something so simple could change so much. But that is the power of understanding the body instead of fighting against it. When we remove what compresses and inflames, healing begins naturally. And if relieving constipation alone can bring such noticeable improvement, imagine what happens when you don't just remove what harms the prostate, but actively feed it with foods that repair, strengthen, and protect it from within. Because the next step is not about restriction, it's about nourishment. Let's talk about the foods that can rebuild your prostate and restore your vitality. 8. Prostate-Healing Foods. What to eat to repair and protect. Here is the truth most men never hear. Your body is not only capable of healing, it is waiting for the chance. The prostate is not a dead end or a failing system. It is a living tissue that responds with remarkable speed when given the nourishment it needs. And what might shock you most is that the foods that support and rebuild the prostate are not expensive supplements, not complicated formulas, not rare ingredients from somewhere overseas. They are simple, real, whole foods that many men stopped eating long ago, often without realizing what was lost in the process. Imagine food not as pleasure or habit, but as medicine. Medicine that reduces inflammation, restores circulation, and rebuilds the foundation of your hormonal and cellular strength. Foods rich in antioxidants like berries, leafy greens, peppers, broccoli, and deeply colored vegetables act like firefighters inside the body, cooling down the internal flames that have burned for years. Healthy fats from olive oil, nuts, seeds, and avocado help keep your blood vessels flexible and open, allowing oxygen and nutrients to reach your prostate and pelvic nerves. Legumes such as beans and lentils provide the fiber your digestive system needs to remove pressure from your pelvic floor. Whole grains replace the blood sugar roller coaster with steady, stable energy that calms the body instead of stressing it. And then there is lycopene, the powerful compound found in cooked tomatoes, especially when paired with olive oil. Study after study has shown that lycopene supports prostate tissue, reduces inflammation, and may even help slow the progression of enlargement. It is one of the simplest and most overlooked tools available to every man. Green tea brings gentle stimulation without the sugar overload of sweetened beverages, supporting cellular renewal and reducing oxidative stress. And water, the most basic substance of life, becomes a healing force when consumed throughout the day rather than late at night. There is something deeply emotional, almost spiritual, about watching the body respond when given what it has been missing. I have seen men who felt defeated for years suddenly rediscover energy they thought was gone forever. I have seen sleep return like a gift. I have seen confidence rebuild itself quietly, steadily, beautifully. And more than anything, I have seen hope come back into eyes that once looked tired and discouraged. Because when a man begins to heal, he becomes himself again. These foods are not about dieting or restriction. They are about restoration, about returning the body to the natural rhythm it once had before stress, convenience, and modern habits pulled it off course. You do not need to be perfect. You do not need to change everything overnight. You simply need to begin feeding your body what supports life instead of what inflames it. So ask yourself now, with honesty and courage, what would your life feel like if you woke tomorrow with less pressure, fewer nighttime bathroom trips, more energy, and more control? What would it feel like to trust your body again, to feel strong again, to feel like yourself again? Because the next part of this journey may be the most important of all. Now that you know your enemies and your allies, the question becomes, what will you do with this knowledge? And how do you begin today, not someday, to reclaim the health and freedom you deserve? Let's bring all of this together. Let's talk about what happens when a man finally decides that his future matters more than old habits. 9. Conclusion. The power to change begins today. If you have listened closely to everything we have discussed, then you already know that your prostate is not failing you. Your body is not betraying you. The truth is far more hopeful than that. Your body has been trying to protect you, trying to communicate with you, trying to warn you long before the discomfort and the sleepless nights and the quiet frustration took hold. Every symptom you have felt was your body asking for help. Every struggle was a message. And now, for the first time, you finally understand what it has been trying to say. You have seen the three enemies that have been silently working against your prostate for years: processed and red meats, sugary drinks and refined carbohydrates, and high-salt, ultra-processed foods. You have learned what these foods are doing inside your body, how inflammation spreads quietly and relentlessly, how circulation becomes restricted, how pressure builds, and how hormonal balance begins to slip away. You have recognized the warning signals, the weak stream, the urgency, the nighttime interruptions, the heaviness, the fatigue, the loss of confidence that few men ever speak about openly. You have seen that small, consistent changes hold more power than drastic, temporary efforts. And you now understand a hidden factor most men ignore: constipation and pelvic pressure quietly intensifying every symptom. Finally, you have discovered the foods capable of healing, restoring, and rebuilding your strength from within. Now comes the moment that matters most, because knowledge without action is nothing more than regret waiting for a place to grow. The question now is not whether change is possible. You have already seen proof that it is. The question is whether you will take the first step today. Your body is waiting for relief. Your prostate is waiting for space to breathe again. Your bladder is waiting for calm. Your sleep is waiting to return without interruption. Your strength, your clarity, your energy, and your confidence are waiting to come back home. So take a breath, be honest with yourself, and choose one step you will commit to today. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when life becomes less busy. Today. Will you remove sugary drinks? Will you stop eating processed meats daily? Will you keep dinner light and earlier? Will you add more fiber and hydration? Will you begin feeding your body foods that heal rather than harm? Because when you take that first step, something powerful begins to happen. Your body responds. Your symptoms begin to soften. Your nights begin to settle. Your energy slowly returns, and as the days pass, you begin to feel something you may not have felt in a long time: control. I have watched thousands of men transform their lives by making decisions far smaller than the ones you now have in front of you. The only difference between the man who continues to struggle and the man who reclaims his health is the moment he decides he is no longer willing to surrender. So ask yourself right now, quietly and honestly, how do you want the rest of your life to feel? Do you want to continue down the same path, or are you ready to turn the page and begin writing a different story? Because your future begins the moment you say yes. Your body is ready, your health is waiting. And the next chapter starts with a single decision you make today.